We all know the feeling. A sudden wave of anxiety, a creeping sense of self-doubt, or an invisible wall that blocks your path. It's the heavy mental friction we usually call negative energy. When that weight hits, our first instinct is to fight back. We try to push the bad thoughts away or clear our heads completely, hoping to find a moment of total blankness. But there's a psychological trap in that strategy. The human mind abhors a vacuum. When you try to force yourself not to think about something, you create an empty space, and chaotic, anxious thoughts are always the first things to rush back in. Because you cannot actually empty your mind, you cannot simply delete the darkness. The only way to remove it is to actively fill that mental space with something else. For thousands of years, Eastern traditions have relied on a tool designed to solve this exact problem: the mantra. Every day, millions of people recite specific verses on continuous loops, texts like the Hanuman Chalisa or the resonant Om Han Hanumate Namo Namah. These verses function by invoking a central archetype, a figure of absolute resilience like Hanuman, and repeating his name until that image dominates the practitioner's internal landscape. These ancient hymns do not ignore the harsh realities of life. They explicitly name the threats we face: physical disease, deep-seated pain, and malevolent, unseen forces. Then they counter those terrors by invoking a figure of unwavering strength. They call on Hanuman, the ultimate protector, the immovable remover of obstacles, known as Sankat Mochan. You'll often hear a secondary invocation directed at Surya, the sun god. This brings in a literal dispeller of darkness, representing raw, life-giving energy. These ancient texts create a highly calculated contrast. They take the fragile, vulnerable parts of the human condition and pit them directly against the invincible power of these divine archetypes. So why does calling out to a figure like Hanuman actually work to calm a racing mind? To chant a phrase like Om Han Hanumate Namo Namah is to anchor the conscious mind to the specific traits Hanuman represents: unshakable courage, selfless devotion, and focused willpower. Ancient texts like the Hanuman Kavach describe this process as putting on spiritual armor. You build a psychological shield, layer by layer, to deflect the stressors of the outside world. By fixing your attention on an invincible character, the brain stops feeding its own insecurities. The feelings of vulnerability starve from a lack of attention. The deity serves as a heavy, immovable anchor, holding the practitioner steady while the chaotic storms of daily anxiety blow past them. The ritual requires a specific cycle of 108 repetitions, often played on a continuous rhythmic loop. This repetition induces a state of cognitive override. You cannot physically hold on to a state of panic or grief when your vocal cords, your breathing patterns, and your conscious thoughts are all synchronized to one demanding task. This continuous praise, called jap nirantar, leaves zero processing power available for the brain to loop negative thoughts. Repetition is the engine that transforms the mantra from a passing thought into an impenetrable physical and mental state. This leads to the core mechanism of the practice, the law of displacement. Just as darkness cannot exist in a room that is being filled with light, anxiety cannot survive in a mind that is flooded with conviction. By repeatedly chanting these verses, you are effectively serving an eviction notice to your own fears. You are taking the empty, vulnerable spaces of your mind and repopulating them with courage. Utilizing this technology doesn't require specific religious devotion. It relies on a universal psychological rule: whatever we focus our attention on will expand. The most effective way to remove negative energy is never to fight it directly. It is to repeatedly and fiercely invoke the strongest, most resilient version of the human spirit until that strength is the only energy left. Our minds will always build exactly what we tell them to. With the right words, spoken with enough rhythm and force, you can build a fortress.